Hi everyone, my name's Jason. I'm part of the CanadianYouthWorker.com blogging team, and this week we have a special guest with us, Mr. Danny Mackay from iamsecond.com. We get to interview him about youth ministry, stories, Canada, all those good things. Let's say hi to Danny. Danny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to meet you. It's good to be here.
Very cool. We are having a little bit of technical difficulty, so there might be an audio lag, so there'll be a long pause. It's because Danny's really pensive, likes to think through his answers before he answers. But Danny, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're about. Some of us are familiar with I Am Second, some of us might not be. We'd just love to hear a little bit about you.
Cool. Well, my name's Danny Mackay, and yeah, I've been working with I Am Second for about 2 years now, just over 2 years, and it's just a real exciting movement that God is using in over 200 countries. A lot of people know us from our videos. If you go to iamsecond.com, you'll see the videos of different celebrities and people throughout, society, politicians, movie stars, singers, actors, like all kinds of different people, walks of life, former drug addicts or even prostitutes, things like that, where they just share their story of how Christ completely transformed their life, gave them a brand new start, and they tried living for themselves and found Christ, and when they put Him first and began to serve the kingdom, that things started to straighten out in their lives, and they found hope. And so it's a movement that, like I said, is in about 200 different countries. It's going all around the globe. But what a lot of people don't know about I Am Second is behind that movement, we're actually a missions mobilization ministry as well. So we're taking teams every second day of the calendar year. We have a team going into one of the 65 different countries that we work in, bringing the gospel to some of the most unreached parts of the world. So that's what I'm really excited about, is mobilizing people, helping equip them, and giving them the tools to evangelize, and taking them to places where they get to see right on the front line firsthand what God is doing in other parts of the world. So that's what we're about, really, just equipping people, helping them share their faith, training them up, and sending them out into the harvest field. So that's what we're doing.
Very cool, very cool. And I'm sorry about mispronouncing your last name, Mr. Mackay. So I'll get that better for the rest of the
Oh,
interview here. So where are you
no worries.
personally located? You've mentioned that I Am Second is in over 200 countries. You're the Canadian ministry rep. Where do you live? How does that work for you to connect with I Am Second from where you are?
I'm in Manitoba, and we have teams. We have a team across Canada. We're working on probably about a team of 12 right now. A couple of years ago, there was just one, and so we connect in big time with the U.S. team, our U.S. family,
Hmm.
and big strong support from them. They support us in everything, connect us into everything. We're all working on this together. There's about 450 staff, I guess, globally that work with the organization. Church planters, administrators, church planting coordinators, speakers, artists, people that are ambassadors and represent in different parts of the country. And so I've been given Canada, and love it. Very excited to be up here.
Awesome. So what is it that you love about Canada?
Well, I'm sure everybody else has probably said this that you've interviewed, but I just love the people, man. I love the culture. I love how friendly and apologetic we are. I love how polite, we are. We tend to be fairly humble, um, not always, but generally speaking, as a culture, I just love that about Canadians, and you really feel that when you travel a lot and you go to different countries and you see how they operate. It's a real joy being Canadian and working with Canadians. I love it. That's one of my favorite things.
Awesome. And I think
That
most
and
of
our
us would
Tim
agree.
Hortons.
Tim Hortons, there you go. Yeah, I think that's phenomenal. I agree. The people, our generosity. We're humble until it comes to hockey, and then I think we get a little bit more brash and arrogant, and that's okay. Um, Next
Yeah, you
question
bet.
for you. Uh, what do you love about your ministry context? You talked a little bit about that, the stories you get to tell, the stories you get to hear, the places you go, equipping people for evangelism. So is there anything else that you really enjoy? And then the second part of that question is there anything about your ministry context, working in an organization that works with churches, that you find a little bit difficult?
Hmm. Yeah, well, definitely some of the things I enjoy. I think my favorite thing is seeing people come to faith. You know, when I see Christians stepping outside of the church walls and going out into the community, going out into the streets and some of the hard to reach, difficult to reach places, even here in Canada, I love seeing that. I love seeing Christians get equipped. I love seeing people that have never heard the gospel or never had it explained to them or never been invited into a relationship with Christ. I love seeing that. And I love seeing them being trained and equipped right away to turn around and reach their friends. So that's something that just absolutely gets me excited. I mean, I've burnt my resume. I've found, the ministry that's just the right fit. I'm swimming in the same direction as my leadership, and it's a real exciting context to be in, to be so supported and so inspired by my leaders, and to be a part of something that's global and is really making an impact for the kingdom. So that's super exciting for me, and it's just unlimited where we get to do that, both here in Canada, in our own neighborhoods, in our own streets, with our own friends, but also, in parts of the world that they've never even heard the name Jesus. So I love that. Some of the challenges I think is probably what we're all facing in whatever ministry we're a part of, and that's just Canada is a very rich country, and so you do tend to hit a lot of that apathy that comes along with dealing with people in that culture, and so it can be a real challenge dealing with that and getting people to see the need for Christ and respond to His call to go into all the nations. We can get pretty comfortable here, myself included. I wrestle with that. I look at churches around the world and Christians and leaders that are absolutely persecuted for their faith in incredibly trying and difficult circumstances where they risk a lot, and to come back and see how we take our faith for granted, myself included. That's tough, So trying to balance those two worlds that we are a part of is probably the biggest challenge. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. I think you're right. With us here in Canada, sometimes we don't think about how fortunate we are and some of the challenges that others face in other countries, and we might take our freedom
Mm-hmm.
for granted a little bit. And so um, that sense of apathy, that sense of entitlement for sure can run deep. So I appreciate you sharing that. On to the next question here. You talked about your role as the Canadian rep. It's partnering with different local churches, high schools, you name it. What's the most rewarding part about working in that Canadian landscape?
Well, definitely. I mean, the thing I love the most is uh, probably when I see young people, at an early age, like teenagers, young adults, uh, getting that vision and seeing them equipped to share their faith and to disciple new believers and to get out there when they realized that what Jesus said, that the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. When they realize that, when they go out and start sharing their faith and people are actually responding and coming to Christ, I get excited about that, because most of us, we hear the statistics about how Christianity is on the decline in Canada, and I think that's mostly because 98% of Christians don't share their faith. And so I love being a part of getting that 98% out there, some of them anyway, and sharing their faith and actually realizing that God is out there. He's drawing people. People are hungry. People do actually desire to hear the gospel. Yeah, you got to navigate through some real red lights and people that aren't interested. But if you keep searching and keep looking and keep sharing and keep being available to share the gospel, you're going to find people that, you know, you're an answer to prayer. You know, we see it all the time in our teams. Not once have we gone out and not found someone who is just so utterly thankful that we stopped them or talked to them or prayed with them. We've led people to Christ in tears right there on the street. We've begun discipling them. They've already begun reaching their friends, and we've seen just total life transformation. And so that's what gets me the most excited, you know, about working with iamsecond, is we just have some really great tools and some good training to really help equip people in practical, simple ways to get out there and start sharing their faith. That gets me going.
Awesome, thanks for that. I imagine a lot of these tools and stories are found online at iamsecond.com, or is there another resource outside of that where people could start researching some of these things that you have available as an organization?
Yeah, no, there's definitely, if you go to the website, iamsecond.com, you can click on Live Second and see a whole bunch of our resources there, small group study materials, you know, tips and tricks to sharing your faith, things like that. One of our favorite things that we love to do is actually come in and train and model it, you know, and bring in, you know, either a team or work with an existing team in a church and come in and actually do some training. We've connected with a movement called T for T, which is short for Training for Trainers, which was started by Mackay in China about 20 years ago, and he basically started the whole underground church planting movement there in China. It's now spawned to all kinds of different countries, and literally is responsible for helping equip, you know, hundreds of millions of new believers in sharing their faith. And it's basically just learning how to share your faith, how to lead someone to Christ, how to disciple a new believer and train up a new leader. It's really simple, really practical, and we're all, as an organization, all of our church planters and ambassadors are getting trained in this so that they can turn around and train others. So we really want to train trainers, you know, is really what we're doing. And so you know, just connecting face to face and taking people out and modeling it for them is one of our favorite resources, and we're training up people across Canada to be equipped to do that. So that's a huge resource. And of course, just sharing the videos on Facebook, Twitter, you know, whatever, email, sending them to a friend, showing them in classrooms, churches, concerts, wherever. You know, we love hearing the stories of Jesus in unexpected places. So that's really fun.
That's awesome. So Danny, if people wanted to connect with you about some of that training stuff, they maybe are familiar with the websites, they've used the stories, or they're going to use the stories because they just logged onto it and they saw how cool they are. How can they get in touch with you personally as our Canadian ministry rep guy for iamsecond?
You just drop me an email. You can reach me at danny.mackay, and that's Mackay, at iamsecond.com. Facebook, you know, Twitter, I'm all out there on those things. So yeah, drop me a line, get in touch, you know, and I'd love to, you know, even just answer questions or jump on, you know, Google Hangouts or Skype or whatever, and just chat through what God is doing in your neck of the woods and ways that we could help, you know.
Brilliant. Okay, one last question before we finish off with my favorite part of the interviews, and that's the Great Canadian Youth Worker Quiz. The last question is, if you hypothetically had an audience of Canadian youth workers, a couple hundred of them all across our country, what would you say to them to encourage them?
Man, you know, like God has just been absolutely blowing my mind with young people. First of all, I'm just, you know, as a dad who has two teenage kids who are now starting to join youth group, I'm so thankful as a parent for how you guys speak into my kids' lives. You know, I can do a lot as a parent. I know the majority of the responsibility falls on me as a parent, but to have that support coming from, you know, someone they look up to, and just encouraging them and speaking into their faith and being there to help mentor them, it's a huge, huge blessing to our entire family. And so I know that there are, you know, millions of parents across Canada who are just blessed by the work that youth pastors and youth workers are doing. And so I'm just super thankful. And as a fellow youth worker who's out there speaking into young people's lives as well, man, it's just been so cool to see the hunger in these young people, and how, like, I feel like I've been underestimating them so much. Like when I was the youth pastor at Linden Christian School, I had almost 200 students showing up to prayer meetings once a week, grade 8 kids who would weep and pray and cry out to God for their friends, for their families, for their city. And it wasn't because of any great teaching or any great model that I was following. It was, I was spending time in my own, prayer closet with God, and just praying for the ministry that He had entrusted to me. And I just saw Him move powerfully. And so, yeah, man, it's just been really cool to see how, my own personal walk in prayer and in private with Christ affects the work that I'm doing and the people that I'm leading. So I guess it's a twofold encouragement. One, thank you. Thanks for what you're doing. And two, man, stay close to Jesus. Stay close to Him and stay in the Spirit. Stay intimate with Him, and don't lose touch with your own walk with Him in the busyness of ministry. So, yeah, man, lots to say on that. Lots to say. But
there always is.
I don't want to keep blabbing forever and take up the time.
No worries, no worries. We're going to finish our time with just a rapid fire 5-question, spontaneous things that are just coming to my brain on the fly, where I'm going to just shoot them at you about Canadian stuff. Okay, so bear with me here, but Danny,
right.
We've appreciated hearing your story, hearing the story of the organization, and I'm sure there's going to be many of us, me included, who are going to go onto the website, look at some of these tools, and figure out how you as an organization can help us doing what we're doing in our local contexts, and vice versa. So I appreciate that. So you're going to be on the screen the whole time. I'm just going to fire them at you.
Okay. Go for it.
Question number 1. Do you have a favorite prime minister? If so, who it is, and why?
Dude, I'm so not political, but I do love Stephen Harper because I think he's a Christian, right? Like I hear that he's a born again believer, and so I get excited about that. But I'll be honest, man, I watch a lot of international stuff, but I don't really watch a lot of Canadian politics. But I do like the Harps. I think he's doing all right, I hope we're still friends.
Absolutely. Stephen Harper's from Calgary, so I'm in Calgary. It works. Hometown boy.
Right on.
Very cool. So second question, how many youth workers across Canada have you had the chance to connect with? Just guesstimate for us.
3,000-4,000.
Awesome. And hopefully that's a number that continues to go up and up and up and up. Brilliant.
Yeah, I toured a band for a while. I worked with World Vision as a national guy, and then now with iamsecond. So I do conferences and concerts and tours and stuff. So I've had a chance. I wouldn't say like I know them all personally, individually by name, but yeah, lots.
Awesome.
Some great country to be a youth worker in.
Brilliant. Okay, question number 3. How many Canadians have been interviewed by iamsecond?
Not many. I think there's a couple in there, and obviously, being a new addition to the family, we're working on a few really good connections. One into the country music scene. I'm not going to drop any names right now, just because it's an ongoing thing. We have a couple of NHL guys, and some artists that some hip hop artists that we're looking at, and the discussion is definitely happening.
Awesome. So we can definitely look forward to more Canadian specific content in the future. Question number 4. If you had to choose to be a beverage, what would you be?
Huh. That's a great question. I would say I would probably be. Hmm. I'd get in trouble with the first answer that came to mind, but so as not to bother anyone. I'm just gonna go with something safe. I would probably be a Pepsi, something fizzy, refreshing, exciting, and yeah, something you could trust. You can trust Pepsi.
Awesome. Sounds like a new marketing slogan for Pepsi there, right?
Yeah, dude, I don't know how to answer that one. That's an awesome question.
Good, good. Okay, last question.
I can
Who's your
see why you
favorite?
didn't fire these off to us ahead of time.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. Last one. Who's your favorite hockey team and why?
Well, obviously the Winnipeg Jets. Okay, they're my number one. But whenever they don't make the playoffs, which is quite regularly, especially since they weren't around for like 15 years, then I honestly, I just start rooting for any Canadian team. I don't care if it's Toronto, I don't care if it's Ottawa or Edmonton. I just want the cup in Canada, in some city in Canada for one season. That would just be a blast. So I just start rooting for Canadians. But obviously, I really get behind our own Winnipeg Jets. So they're the boys.
Awesome. Well, you might be disillusioned, but that's okay. Go Leafs, go. Thanks so much, Danny, for your time today. Appreciate you. I hope that whoever's watching this, you're going to be inspired in some way to hook up with Danny Mackay and hear about these training initiatives that they're able to bring to your local context or materials that you can use to help strengthen what God wants to do in you and through you. Stay classy, Canada. We love you. We think you're awesome. God bless.
Amen.